everybody, welcome to beautiful Guadalupe down here in Baja, California in Mexico. We have just spent the day riding the brand new Kawasaki Versys 1100 LT SE. Now this is the only version that we are going to get in North America. $19,499 it's going to cost you MSRP at your local dealer, prior to various charges and taxes and whatever else you got to pay for a new bike. But yeah, this is a very important model for Kawasaki. Now, Kawasaki admittedly has said that the 1100 or the 1000 Versys as it was, really was the kind of redhead stepchild of the sport touring game. It was pretty much forgotten about. I mean, it came out, the previous iteration came out, I think it was 2020 or 2021 that we tested, and yeah, it wasn't really that well received. That's probably not so fair. It was well received, but not many people knew about it. That's probably the best way to look at it. Kind of a well-kept secret, really, because it was priced really well. It had a great engine, really good chassis, probably lacked a little charisma in the overall game against some of the things like Ducatis and Yamahas and Suzukis for that matter. Some of those, like the GSX GT, which is one of my favorite bikes for this kind of category. But yeah, anyway, sorry for waffling on there. We are looking at the brand new 1100 SELT, just so we've got the right nomenclature. Now the engine has a 3mm larger stroke. It's been punched out to 1099 cc's from 1043 previously. So it's given you a bunch more torque. Now, we don't actually have the dyno graphs here to show you, but Kawasaki showed us earlier on from kind of 3,000 RPM pretty much all the way to about 10,000 RPM, there is a noticeable gap in the amount of torque that this thing makes. The low down torque that this engine produces is really, really good. It's incredibly smooth as well. Like when I've jumped off a couple of bikes recently that when you get up into the higher gears and you crack the throttle at low revs in say 4th, 5th and 6th, they really don't like it. This bike on the other hand, doesn't phase it whatsoever. I tried to get it to go from standing still at the traffic lights in 6th gear to see if it really was that good. It wasn't that good, but 4th gear it would do it no problem. So it gives you an idea of the amount of torque that's on offer with this new motor. Kawasaki has done a lot of work to reduce the vibrations with this bike. Everywhere you could possibly think of has had a bit of work thrown into it. You get very, very little vibrations through the handlebars, through the pegs. When you start to get up around 8,000 RPM, it's red lines at 10. Okay, you're going to get a little bit there. This bike is not designed to be ridden at those revs. It is a big torquey monster, big old seat for the passenger, big old seat for the rider. It's that big touring deluxe kind of sporty style motorcycle that it's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm going to be honest. It's going to go against bikes like the Multistrada and things like that, which have a little bit more panache about it, a little bit more zing. But it's a very well kept secret. So long rides on this bike are going to be super easy. You know, we've got the big old thing at the back here that the passenger can lean. When you put a top box in, you can put your passenger back and lean back on it. It's going to be really, really nice. Now with the new motor, Kawasaki has given you a new quick shifter as well. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is probably the smoothest quick shifter I've ridden in recent memory. It's so smooth, it's almost boring. I know. And Kawasaki, I can hear the Kawasaki executive saying to me, what else do you want from us? It's like, is it too good? It's not good enough? And it is so smooth, and I'm not kidding you, it's so smooth you actually have to check on the dash half the time to make sure it's gone into gear. It doesn't even, it has almost an automatic feel, almost like a, you know, I've never ridden a seamless gear shift on a MotoGP bike, but I can't imagine it's much different. It is really, really good. That means that low RPM riding as well. I said 1500 RPM, before I forget, 1500 RPM is when the quick shifter engages. Previously it was 2500 RPM. So that allows you to, when you're cruising around in car parks and taken away from stop signs and all that stuff, really, really low, you can just short shift it, ding, 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 and keep those revs nice and low. It won't, unlike some systems on the market, it will not allow you to back shift when the throttle is open. Again, like when I tried to take away from the lights in 4th and 5th gear, when it was trying to start to bog, I tried to keep the throttle open, back down through the gears and see if it would do it. Wouldn't do it, but all you gotta do is shut the throttle and click back through the gears. It's just another little thing to stop you from being extra lazy in your riding. Inside that 6-speed gearbox resides a longer 5th and 6th gear on this new motor, which means at 62 mile an hour, so give or take 100 or so k's an hour, you're basically right on 4,000 RPM, right in the sweet spot. You very rarely need to back down through gears to be able to get meaningful acceleration. It's incredibly smooth at that point. So you can also go a little bit further. You've got 4 riding modes. You've got a rain, a street, and a sport mode. Your rider mode allows you to change your traction control, the new Kawasaki electronic suspension, and the power modes as well. You've got a high and a low power. Full power and low power, it's called. Low power gives you 75% of what the engine can produce, but it also gives you a softer throttle and all that stuff, so it's not just the lower horsepower number. Now within the suspension, the electronic suspension resides 43mm Showa forks and a Showa shock at the back. Now you can get into the modes with the new electronic suspension. You can actually change the modes. It's plus or minus 5, so you effectively get 10 different stages of damping control. You have your standard rider with one rider with luggage, 2 riders with luggage, 2 riders and no luggage, like the kind of standard stuff that we've been used to now for quite a while. It gives you a lot of options. I mean, you can kind of get lost in the options really, but the standard suspension settings I find were really good. I did have a bit of a play around just to up the compression on the fork a little bit, just to stiffen things up a little bit under braking. But overall, like I actually put the thing into 2 riders with luggage, just to stiffen everything up, because once we got into the twisties today, it was a little bit more enjoyable. You are dealing with a fair amount of weight here, so you do want to have the thing nice and planted. It's got to be stable in its corners. You don't want all that fuel load falling backwards and forwards and upsetting the chassis. The suspension is monitored every millisecond, so like the Öhlins system, it is a competitor to that system. It is extremely good, I've got to say. I haven't had a lot of time on Showa electronic suspension. Most of my electronic suspension riding has been done either with WP or with Öhlins. Öhlins systems I've done more miles on than I could count. But the Showa system is very, very good. It's very easy to use. The suspension behavior itself is very good. So look, I mean, I have no complaints whatsoever about this. I think it's really good. Now, as for your other electronics, traction control, cornering ABS, cornering lights, 6-axis IMU, all the usual stuff that you would expect for a bike of this price point. Heated grips come as standard, hallelujah, because some people don't like to give you heated grips on a bike that costs you 20 grand, and that's not good enough. But overall, the ride is very good. But before I go, that screen. Okay, now everybody that's watched me do a sport touring comparison or a ride always hears me bitching about screens. This one's not bad. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. It has a nice little cutout in the middle of it, so that takes a lot of the buffeting away from your helmet. If I hop on quickly, you'll be able to see it's gonna go right there. Effectively straight over, almost over the top of my helmet, which is pretty good. You can, if you wanted to, you can put a little kind of spoiler on the top of that thing, and that'll get rid of all the stuff. Looks a little naff, but like, at least you don't have a buffeting head, which drives me completely mad when I'm riding these things. But yeah, overall, it's a very, very good bike. It is a very complete bike. Might be a strange thing to say, but I highly doubt if you bought this thing that you'd be looking to upgrade within 5 years. It is one of those bikes that you can do miles on. I am not a fan of that seat. Before I go, I am not a fan of that seat. It has hurt my butt. It's weird because it's soft initially, but man, you spend 9 hours in the saddle like we did today, and my back is not loving it. And that's got nothing to do with the ergos itself. It's purely the foam in that seat. So if I were to be buying one of these things, the very first thing I would do would be go and get myself probably a Saddleman seat or a Corbin seat or whatever custom butt seat I could get. Because if I'm buying this thing, I'm doing miles on it. I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna ride to Colorado, I'm gonna ride to Miami, like, whatever. It's the perfect bike for that stuff. So if you're gonna have something like this, you wanna use it and use it well, make sure the thing fits you just like a good helmet. So anyway guys, that is a quick wrap up. I am going to get out of my gear and go and have a shower. It's been a long day. Please stay tuned to Cycle News. We'll have the full road test with the link below. Until then guys, keep a rubber side down and I will see you next time. Cheers.